What's up, guys? Welcome back. Gate 7 International here after a 3-1 victory against Giannina. Team doesn't make it easy, and we'll get into all of that in just a moment. I am joined by my co-host in France, Martial. Martial, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I hope every olympiacos fan is fine too after that victory today.
It's always good to get a win. Always good. But before we talk about the win, don't forget to like and subscribe very quick. A bunch of you are already jumping in, and we see patrons are already in the house as well. Just hit that like, costs you nothing. Subscribe if you like the content you see. There's a lot that's going on here, a lot that's still to come. The engagements help us find more red and white fans in the community that are out there that have no home. Help us continue to find them and grow this community. You can also support us on Patreon if you feel inclined to do so. There's a lot of good stuff that you can get on there. We have for $1 a month, you can join the WhatsApp group. For $5 a month, you can get our expanded content tier, which also gives you early access to scouting reports. Now, you can also see some fun things, fun interviews there. We do enhanced analysis of certain matches every month. And this month's interview is going to be with the agent of Doran Leidner. That interview is getting recorded this week. I will be speaking to his agent. His name is Idan, and we're going to learn about what it's like to be a sport agent, soccer agent, or a football agent, I should say, and how he finds talent, how he found Doran. So it's exciting. A lot of good stuff coming up. Don't forget the shop is coming up as well. So we're super pumped for all of that. Thank you guys, and thank you to our patrons who currently support us. So let's talk about it, boys and girls. And for the chat, come in. There should be a poll that you should see for the MVP. Who was the most valuable player, the man of the match today? You have a few options. If you don't like the options, you can always comment your option in the window. And also, please check in. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We get new listeners in every show. We love to see where everyone's calling in from. So thank you guys for checking in. We are super excited to get started. And Mike Scott made soup in the halftime, so that made him better. Well, Yorgos Moutsanos is starting us off, Martial. Can we talk about Masouras? For me, it's a bigger crime not renewing him than Fortunis. For me, he should be one of, if not the captain. Well,
Well, now go on.
it so let's start off this way, Marcel. Let's just quickly talk about the game, and then we'll talk about some of the finer points. How did you see the match today? Start with the lineup and how you saw things going in the first half, and we'll go from there.
It's always difficult those kind of games because you know that you has to win them. You know that Giannina probably will defend during 90 minutes. So you need to score as quickly as possible. And it's also the kind of game in which you want to see new faces. Either it's signings like today or youngster or rotation players. So it's the mix of all of that makes those games really interesting and weird at the same time. So when I saw the lineup, I was kind of happy because it was a good lineup for me, even if Kinney becoming the only fullback backup looks kind of weird to me because I was thinking it was about to leave, but is not a backup for the left back and the right back at the same time. But apart of that, I was happy to see Horta. I was happy to see Navarro getting a start again because I think the striker in this team needs to have back-to-back games. It's like the center backs pair; they need to have back-to-back games to have confidence. Also, Madi not in the mission probably hints towards something happening for him, like a departure, maybe.
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
know. Yeah. So the lineup was good, but the game was the kind of game you would fear before kickoff. Struggling to score, scoring, getting a PK against, kind of PTSD at the end before the Jovetic goal. We're getting used to that, but even if we're used to that, it's still a pain because it should have been like a 4-5 nil victory. Could have been. No, you're on mute, I think. No.
Amateur mistake yet again. You can never escape it. But don't forget in the beginning too that Doi tackle that some of us were like, "Oh my gosh, is this a red card already?" Very dangerous tackle in the beginning, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, as far as the lineup went, I was really excited just to see Horta starting because the scouting report for me was really fun to do with him. He's a very talented player. And even though he didn't really do anything that I thought was extremely game changing today, you saw some of the quality. I mean, very clean touch. And I love that he just wasn't afraid to get involved. At the end of the first half, he was the team leader in terms of total touch count. He had the most attempted passes, the most touches on the ball. And for a guy that's just come in, he's been here, what, a week? Maybe a week and a half, and he just comes in, probably barely knows half the team his names, and he came in and just wanted the ball, wasn't afraid, moved around. Sure, maybe some of the interplay he wasn't all there. You could tell he was a little bit out of sorts, but that's going to come. I like that, and I think we're going to see better from him. As far as the rest of the first half, I think we should tell everybody there were a lot of people upset about the Rodinei not starting and Kini starting. Rodinei served his suspension today because he got 4 yellow cards. So this was the game that in Greece you can still decide when to serve a suspension when it comes to yellow card accumulation, which is kind of odd, but this is when they decided to serve the suspension. So it makes sense. It's Giannina, worst offense in the league and one of the worst teams in the league. I think they're actually tied for worst with Ofi as far as offense is concerned and total shot contribution XG overall. So we expected to win this game. We made it harder on ourselves than probably we should have. And in that first half, we had some opportunities, but the execution was just very poor. A couple of great looks, great balls going forward, but I mean, it seemed like almost everything that we did, we couldn't materialize a shot on target to start with. I mean, Masouras, we'll talk about him and the rest of his game, but sure, he had 2 assists for us today. Did very good, made a lot of great runs, but he could not help himself and find even more ways to screw up his shot opportunities today. If not for the assists, people would be super furious with him, but he had a lot of great scoring opportunities to get a goal, and he just ruined so many of them. We had the one offsides call the goal he scored, but it was called back for offsides on Gelson Martins, I believe. Gelson Martins, I was a little more disappointed with today. But you still see what you get out of him that we haven't gotten out of a winger in years. It was so nice to see in the first half when it was like in the I want to say closer to the 40th minute when the Giannina midfielder is on him and he does a quick feint and cuts the ball left and just beats the midfielder and goes to the defender. When was the last time we saw a winger of ours do something like that and beat a player one-on-one? So I did like to see it. And he had a couple of really nice runs, I thought, during the course of the game as well, even if it wasn't as good of a match as what he's done previously for us in his very short time here. Now, I'll bring this question up from Yorgos Moutsanos because we talked briefly about Masouras, and there's a lot of discussion about the renewal of Masouras. There was interest reported in Germany by a local Bochum outlet that Bochum were interested in Masouras. Then a tweet comes out from Adonis Economidis, who says, if I translate it roughly, that it is beyond interest at this point. So he hasn't renewed yet. I believe the club mentioned they were beginning the talks to renew with him, but that hasn't gone anywhere. So a lot of people are worried, including us, that he may have actually already said yes. I mean, if you read between the lines, if you read the tea leaves, he may have already said yes, and he's not renewing with Olympiacos. You've seen some of the comments here, other comments on social media. Of the players that we're going to lose on free, we'll say, this one seems to be a really, really bad loss. What do you make of this, Martial?
I'm sorry, I was on mute too. I was going to say I totally agree because for me, Masouras is more than a player because as an Olympiacos fan, is exactly what I'm expecting for a player for Olympiacos, but especially a Greek player, because you don't see Masouras off the pitch getting into trouble. Like, he's one of the most calm guy you will find. He loves Olympiacos. He comes from almost nowhere because he was in Panionios and before a small Greek club. So he made his way up to the top, and he proved in every step. Like, no one gave him anything. He had to earn it on the pitch with his work, and it also applies to Olympiacos, because when he came, I wasn't expecting him to be a starter like that, but Martins gave him his chance, and he stayed on the lineup since that day. And the passion he has, it's not fake passion. He's giving his whole. He had terrible game. Like, I'm not gonna lie about on that. I've been furious due to Masouras many times, but also today, when you see the two assists he has given, like two smart passes every time, especially the first one, which is a very good pass. Uh, Even if he had agreed with the German club already, I'm sure he will give like 120% until the end. And the club probably is aware of that. I'm not expecting him to renew because the opportunity for him to leave is quite big. He deserved it. I won't be sad. I won't be mad at him if he leave. I will be sad, but I won't be mad at him because it's time for him, probably. I would be more than happy if he renews, because I think it's still possible. Maybe the club can come up with a very good offer that would make him the true leader of Olympiacos, especially if Fortunis leaves. But yeah, I think we had the answer, and same for last season, because I think Masouras was probably the one that showed passion from the beginning toward the end, and he did not quit. I mean, even if the team was in big trouble, he was there to play, to fight, and he is the real captain of the team for me. Uh, I won't go into the debate if he's better than Fortunis, because it's not really interesting. But the thing is, he's a better leader than Fortunis, probably because he knows what this role means for Olympiacos. He does not have to force his personality to be that.
Right.
And
And I think you're right about that. And the whole look, not talking about Masouras' ability, we know what we get from him, right? We know what the criticisms are when he misses opportunities, but he's a workhorse. He makes a lot of great runs, and you need that for your depth. You need guys who are going to be those workhorses for you, whether they're coming off the bench, making those runs, or in the case of Masouras, he's him and Navarro in the first half were really the only consistent source of movement outside of Gelson Martins on the wing. I mean, Carvajal's strategy doesn't involve interpolating runs, not like with Diego Martinez, not like with a lot of offensive philosophies that we like. I mean, we're seeing with Carvajal, we're seeing like 2.0 Pedro Martins, where the movement's pretty stagnant. When there's space, maybe players are making the movement, but it's on the onus. The onus is on them to make the runs in space. There's no prescribed tactics, runs moving in and out to create spaces. It's not. It's more stagnant than that. And then we get these overloads where you see 3-4 guys sitting in the offensive line. And then if somebody's open, somebody's open. That's how it is, unfortunately. So you need guys like Navarro and Masouras who are constantly going to be making these runs in behind the defender, because that's the only way we make some of these spaces. And then on the case of the renewal, I'm with you. Like I do think we need to re-sign him. He's not an expensive option. He's always going to do a job for you, and he's Greek. It doesn't make sense for this club after Koulias made those statements, and I talked about that when I was solo live last week. You want to talk about bringing more Greek to the locker room, making that Greek core. You're letting one of your best Greek assets go, one of your most valuable Greek assets go, like it or not. We can have the talk about Fortunis. There was a lot of discussion about that when we talked about will he renew or not renew with the club. But Masouras, that is of the renewals that need to happen. That is when you have to prioritize.
it reminds me, I thought about that recently. When we renewed like Lazar, Cisse and Ba at the same time. Like we announced renewal for them within 1 week, 2 weeks, because you can't go into a season with a starter with an expiring contract. I mean, Fortunis has to be the exception because I don't see big teams coming from Fortunis in the middle of the season to get him. But Masouras has some value, so you can't start a season with a player like that out of contract in June, because the more you get close to the end of the contract, the more you will have to pay to renew him. Uh, we all played Football Manager in the past. Like as much as you have interest from the player, you will have to pay more. And Masouras deserve to be paid more, probably. But the fact is, sometimes you will renew a player for more money that probably it deserves, if it makes sense, because you have interest for a German club, for example, for Masouras. So you have to match the offer. And on a free player, it's difficult because he's gonna get he's gonna get a signing bonus when he will sign for another club, and you can't match that. And that's the big mistake of the club. You have to have more anticipation. But the same
Right.
applies for, I don't know, for Tsolakis and for Pachalakis too. Because what if Pachalakis, for example, plays super nicely during playoffs in Super League and is out of contract? What happens? What if you get a big Turkish offer in the summer, a big Saudi offer, and Olympiakos wants to keep it? You're screwed, because you have to give like 2 million to Pachalakis. It's not happening in Olympiacos, I mean.
No, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. And in the interest of time, I don't want to speak the whole time about Masouras, but I think everyone's pretty much on the same page with Masouras. Whether or not he wants to stay, if he's going to leave, now's the time for him. He's on a free. He'll have more clubs that'll be open to signing him. He's never played in a top 5 league. He's really only been in Greece. So maybe he takes his chance. We'll find out, but it's not looking good
No.
if we're waiting for the club to back up the words that were said about bringing this Greek core. Now, another player that's getting a lot of comments so far is Fran Navarro. And the question that some people have is he the goods? Is he value so far since we've signed him? And before we really I guess kind of talk about this and engage some of the fan discussion about it, you saw what he did today. I already brought up earlier. It was him and Masouras that were making a lot of runs in and out. He is not, and I said this in the scouting report, he is not a build-up striker. He is not an El Arabi that can get very involved. He's not going to take a lot of players on one-on-one. If he gets involved in build-up, he can. You saw he's very good one touch. He's very technical in that respect. Very good control of the ball. But he's not like a hold-up striker. He's a target man. I said I called him a poacher. And sure, I know people were upset that he hasn't really scored a lot of goals, but he's only played 5 Super League games. Forget the cup games he's appeared in. He's played 5 Super League games, Martial. 3 goals and 1 assist. He's got a goal contribution every 93 minutes. That is not bad. He's a loan signing. Are we probably going to activate his buyout? Absolutely not. We didn't activate Joel Campbell's buyout for $6 million back in the day. We're not activating this guy's buyout. But has he offered us something so far, especially since Carvajal's arrived? Besides today, we haven't created a lot of shot opportunities. He's fine for me. I don't know how you see it.
I kind of agree. First of all, I'm going to say I really enjoyed the way he finished that goal, because that was clearly a good striker finish. Of course, it looks easy to finish it because it was super nice placed, but he had like some moves with his feet to put his body on the right track, and that was a good finish. I'm kind of sure he will probably have a good run of goals in the end of the season. Obviously, the playoffs will probably decide on his future, but I can't really decide on the purchase option he has, because the amount of money is quite big for Olympiakos, but also it's a kind of striker that could easily get sold after one good season for us. Like Olympiacos, not making a 15 million sale, but probably like 8, 9, around 10, probably if he scores like 15, 20 goals. And I'm not sure people will be pleased by the way he plays, but it's obvious this guy has qualities.
Yeah.
Right? When you compare to, I don't know, it's a very different profile from El Kaabi too, but
Yeah.
it does have
It,
qualities for sure.
he does. He does. And look, and not to mention, we already brought up, he makes the runs you need. He does a lot of work. There's a lot of movement there. And I think in a way, El Arabi spoiled a lot of people with what he does in all aspects. Because even in his decline, right? One of the best things about him is, like, look, El Arabi can hold the ball. He can do some great moves, dribble by a person. He offers value in different respects. So when you go to from that to a guy like El Kabi or even a guy like Navarro, and really they're poachers, and if they're not scoring goals for you, there's less value to them. That's where you get that's where you get this. But so far, a goal contribution every 93 minutes. Look, is that El Arabi in his prime? No. Do you remember in that second season of Pedro Martins when him and Hassan were scoring a goal? They had a goal contribution. It was like every 70 minutes. No. Is it that level of production? No. But right now, it's good production considering El Arabi's been hurt every like time he plays a game or two. He's older at the end of his time. El Kabi, outside of like a month and a half, hasn't produced a lot for us. And Jovetic is the same. Jovetic here and there. He scored today, but I think this guy needs service. We've talked about it. His value, poacher. You get service into the box, into the penalty area, he's going to get something in. We haven't been able to do that outside of the last match or two. And you're seeing when you give him that service, he can score goals. But you have to give him service. If you're not going to get a lot of service and you're struggling to make it, this guy's going to look like a waste of space. And that's the truth with Fran Navarro.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I do see the club trying to lower the price, like Porto did with Semedo, for example, back in time. Okay, for 3,
right.
4 million, even 5, probably, I would buy him personally. If we
Yeah.
reduce the amount of players and we make a few good sales, probably. It's not like Olympiacos can get really better than that if we put aside the big names we've signed in the past for a striker.
Right.
That's my opinion.
And yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I don't know. It's one of those cases where I don't know, I think the expectation in some ways is a little bit more unrealistic. Yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But talking on other points on the match, right? So we talked briefly about Yoros Masouras. We talked briefly about now Fran Navarro. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up about the game before we kind of talk about transfers. And there was a really questionable sub for me today. And it almost cost us. Now, during the course of the game, and this seemed to be the common opinion, at least through the reaches of social media that we had from what we saw with the discussion, Santiago Heze had a great game today. He was all over the place. Won the ball a lot. He was covering the defense. Giannina hardly, especially in the first half, I think they had one opportunity. They didn't start getting more opportunities till the second half. Now, he makes a sub. So his halftime sub, the first sub, I should say, was Chiquinho. Chiquinho came on for Andre Horta. Then he makes a sub. He subs on Carvalho for Heze, and then he also subbed at the same time Podence. Podence comes on. I was super confused when I saw the sub because Heze didn't look tired to me. He was playing well. We were doing very well kind of containing things with Bas. He comes off, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the second he comes off, we start eating pressure from Giannina, and then they have the play that comes forward, and then we eat the penalty where I'm forgetting the name of the striker, the forward already. Rienstra? Was it Rienstra?
Could be Pedro Conde too. No.
Maybe you're right. It could have been Conde. I could have sworn it was Rienstra. Anyway.
No, you're right, probably.
Goes by 4 people. goes by 4 of our players, just dribbles straight past them, cuts in on Retsos. Retsos then slides and eats the penalty. But it's not a coincidence to me that after we subbed off Heze, we started to invite more pressure in the middle. So it was just a really weird transfer to me. And I do see some people talking about, or at least Yorgos Moussanos talking about resting Heze from overuse. Maybe I guess I could see that, but he's had a week rest. We don't play another game for another week. This was bad tactics for me. That was really because Carvalho is useless on the defensive end of the ball. I've seen some people say that he's a switchblade. He can do everything. He absolutely cannot. Carvalho is a 10 that we have repositioned and repurposed to play deeper. And he is inconsistent at best. He's had a string of decent games. I don't know about today. Today, I didn't think he was that good, but he had a string of decent games, and you can say that. But he is not. He is not an 8. He's a 10 that we have played a little bit deeper. It's those things. Carvajal has proven he's not a game manager. He's made terrible in-game substitutions, and I do not trust him, period. What did you make of that sub? Did that sub bother you today? Did any other changes bother you? Are you as worried about about his game management?
I remember last year podcast we did with Mitchell, and I think I said it multiple times, that the issue in modern football is subs are so important that you have probably only 2 or 3% of coaches that are able to read the game properly and make the proper subs. And the 5 subs rule is a major poison gift for coaches, because they do believe, when you're Olympiacos, you probably build the squad with the 5 subs rule because it allows you to use 5 players during the game, and you have a big squad, so it's possible for you to use them. But I don't know, it's every time the structure of the team, which is very fragile, even before the game, gets more fragile after the changes. And it was the case with Mitchell, but it's the case with Carvajal, and it's a big issue because during playoffs, the coach that uses the subs will be the one that will win the league if the league is not decided before. And I don't understand what he's trying to do. I get the fact that he's trying to rest Heze because he needs that, but probably against Giannina, you need to throw a proper number 6, even if it's a young player.
Yep.
Playing at their position, it's the basic of football. And so many times, Olympiacos last season tried to cheat on football, like Marcelo coming in as a number 6, as a winger. I mean, we all did that when we played football while younger, like playing out of position. But in real football, even in Greece, it's not working.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. But I will say this, Martial, because we did talk about one of the signings we had to make this summer was a 6, and we didn't get a 6, right? Now, Santiago has said today, for me, with the partnership with Horta, it did give me, and I brought this up in the scouting report, the deep dive for Horta, I brought up that even though he is an 8, and even though he's not a 6, like the proper 6 that we need, he has attributes in his defensive side of the game that Heze doesn't have. Heze is not super aggressive. We know that, but Heze anticipates very well. He did it today. He broke up multiple possessions of Giannina and kept things that could go into our final third. But he's not an aggressive 6. He's not somebody that you think of like that, like a bulldog that's going to sit there and boss the midfield for you. Absolutely not. But I did like what I see from Andre Horta in the way that he moved. He was a little bit more aggressive getting to the ball. So I thought maybe that brought balance to the midfield. Was it Giannina at the end of the day? Yes, of course. But it's still something that kind of makes me think, look, when Andre Horta gets more match fit, maybe this will be something where we don't need a 6. Even when Chiquinho came on, we did invite a little bit more pressure, but I didn't see like a hole in the midfield. You know what I mean? They got a couple of shots, but nothing too crazy. And neither one of these guys, like none of these are anything close to like what Who do we have last year? It's like Samaseku, for example. They don't have that profile. But as long as they can balance off of, there you go. That it was Samaseku. Yes, thank you. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And as long as you have guys that can build off of what Hazard doesn't have and they complement him, we can get away without having a proper six. And maybe that'll be the case. So I'll just say this. I was hopeful with what I saw out of the pairing today. And I think as we go forward, I think it's going to benefit us. But then the problem will be what happens when we have to rest Eze. Then what do we do? Midfield three?
The Samaseku thing reminds me that probably last season, if we played him in that 4-3-3 before, we probably would have been on the podium of the league. And this kind of player is really, really difficult to find, because I remember when the Greek press announced that we were getting Samaseku, I do believe that a lot of people did not realize what kind of player we were getting, because like Samaseku 2 or 3 years before was a massive player. And I still believe for the Greek league and for Olympiakos, it was a very good signing that we barely used because of probably the loans, the loan deal, how it was. But yeah, we do need this player. And when you see that Endoy's goal, it's clearly the goal of a defensive midfielder for me. Like,
yeah,
he wins the ball, he runs forward. There is a small window for him to shoot. He shots. He does not think. He's trying to shot as powerful as he can, and he scores. A centre back does not do that. Like Retsos in this position, I'm not going to blame him. It's not his fault. But a centre back probably would have passed the ball on the side, because only as someone that was made as a midfielder would have thought about that shot for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you, but I don't think we're ever going to see him played in the position that we would like to see him in. Now, guys, we do apologize. The show is going to be a little bit shorter than it normally is. So one quick thing I want to talk about, Martial, before we do our man of the match coaches grade, and then briefly touch on transfers, is Daniel Podence. I don't know what's happened, but I can safely say that since Carvajal's arrival, both he and Kostas Fortounis' production has just dropped off of the face of the earth. Daniel Podence's was starting before that a little bit, but I mean, his decision making has just gotten horrendous. Yeah. Twice today, opportunities where he didn't have to make a dribble. He could have made an easy pass, or he beats a defender and could make an easy pass for one of his teammates to have a shot, and he just makes a terrible shot, or a shot at an angle that he's never going to score from anyway. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because of the system. I don't know. I don't know. But something's wrong, and he just doesn't look good. He looks like a liability these days.
No, you're right. Probably physically he has issues, like he's not 100%. But the thing is, it's exactly the last weeks represents also Podence's career, because even if when he was at Wolves, I was watching his games because as much like a lot of Olympiacos fan, I was amazed by this player. And right. At some point, he struggled to improve. Like, he was constantly trying to dribble, missing easy passes. Also, when he had the chance to shoot, he was passing. When he needed to pass, he was shooting. And he's exactly on that phase for Olympiacos. And I do believe it's super easy to defend on when he's like that. Like, not super easy, but it's easy to contain and to... because you just need to let him dribble, and the decision making at the end is always terrible for me. Not always, but most of the time. And I agree with you. Yeah, and I think also Podence is the kind of guy that when he has an issue with a coach, he will probably not be able to overcome that. Like, it will kill the 6 months he has to pass with us.
I agree with you. I hope it improves, but I gotta say, I'm not confident. Anyway, let's get to it. Man of the match and coaches grade, guys. Before we close up, like we said, it's going to be a shorter show today. apologize for the time constraints. Don't forget, if you haven't already voted for your man of the match, you can do it now. Martial, get us started. Who was your man of the match today, and what is your coach's grade for Carvajal?
It's Masouras by far, because I do believe that when an offensive player gets assists like that, it worth more than a goal, because those were amazing assists. And the coach's
Yes.
grade has to be, well, B, because we won the game. The lineup was decent, but the changes were terrible.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm going to agree with you. Man of the match for me is the same. It's Yorgos Masouras. My coach's grade for Carvajal. I like the starting lineup. I thought it was pretty good. But like you, yes, I didn't mind the Chiquinho sub. I expected that. Andre Horta wouldn't be able to play a full 90. I didn't mind the Chiquinho sub, but then the you know it wasn't just the Podence sub. It was the way he was used. Did you notice that we would see that 4-3-3?
Yeah.
We saw that 4-3-3 and Bodens was sitting as like a left mid, not a left wing. It was really odd to me, especially behind the ball. It was odd. It was really weird. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the usage. I think, but we had plenty of chances, so I think I have to give some credit to where Carvajal is, whether we just had more quality. So I think I'll give a B. I didn't like the changes. We could have eaten it, so B minus. B minus for me. Lakis Gabalas gives him a C minus. Not surprising. I think that might be a little bit harsh, but anyway, as far as the man of the match poll goes, Masouras on social media is the clear favorite, 65% of the votes on Twitter, and then right now, Masouras is of course the clear favorite as well with 54%, followed by Ndoye with 20% and Heze with 16%. So you've got it. Everybody here also seems to agree that Masouras was by far and away. Now, really quick, Martial, before we close up, I wanted to ask you, since transfers are done, simply, are you happy with the business that has been done? We signed Navarro, Gelson Martins. We signed David Carmo in the center back, and the two midfielders, Horta and Chiquinho. Are you happy with the business that we did? Should we have done less or should we have done more?
No, I have to say I'm happy with it. I will be more happy when we get two players probably out, which is probably Madi, and I would like to see BL gone, but I do believe I don't know how to position myself, because BL has quality and it could be helpful, but it's not going to help. I know that. So
Right.
basically, if those two leaves, it will be a good winter market for us. The big question mark will be the European list, but I'm not sure that's so much of a big deal, because I don't think it's the real objective. And also the
Right.
basis we do have is enough to win Ferencváros, even if we play terribly this season. Otherwise, it's going to be a failure. And I'm also happy not to. I do believe Gaston would have been a good player, but we do have too many center backs. And without Europe, he would have signed, because Poroso would left, and probably one of between Biancon or Ndoye maybe to make room for him. But it's not the case. So, and also I'm happy Radonic not to come, even if I do like to believe it would have been a good signing for us. It's not the right timing, and you can't sign 10 players in the winter anyway.
No, it doesn't do anything for you. Look, the signings I'm happy we didn't make in the end. I was a little disappointed because I thought Gaston Hernandez, I'm sure we'll probably be looking at him in the summer, because I think he also would be a pretty good fit. I saw a lot of things I like, but I'm happy we didn't sign Radonjic, and I also am happy we didn't sign Palomino. Oh my God.
Yeah,
when that would have been a disaster. But anyway, all in all, we didn't get the 6 I was hoping for, but I'm happy with the midfield additions. We got a winger we desperately needed that offers something that we normally don't have. Navarro, context-wise, makes sense for what Carvajal does, so I get it. And then the Carmo loan, left-footed, a competent left-footed center back. As far as Nelson Abbey goes, I haven't done the scouting report for that yet, but we'll see. I mean, he does have some talent, and he's a monster. The guy's a physical monster. I will tell you guys that much. But Martial, do you have any closing thoughts before we close up here?
Yeah, I would say probably the only one thing that makes me optimistic is we do have on this team 2 or 3 players that have some value. If we need a sale, like Heze, even if we don't win the title, I'm sure of it, we will have no issue selling it. Like
Yeah,
it's
of
the
course.
kind of player a bigger club will come to Greece to pick up.
Of
Also,
course.
Hendoy, I'm sure of it. Even if it scares me, but I'm sure he will have a sale at the end of the season because this
Yeah.
guy, it's not possible not to sell him. He has like raw qualities he needs to work on. I don't get why it's not possible for the club to make him improve on those raw qualities, but someone will make it. Someone will do it, and we pay money for him. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Somebody at least that's better at carving that out than we are. But that's a different story altogether. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're sorry, Aris Galamatis. I know he's brought this up before, announcing and planning them. It is hard because depending on the time that they do the games, we try to do them as quickly as we can post match. Uh, Sundays we always do an episode, and of course when the games are, we try to. This is around the time we always focus for, regardless of whether it's an earlier or later game. But we will do our best to try and announce the streams in advance, for you guys so that we can get this a little bit more regular. We'll do our best. Right now, all we can tell you is we will always promise you, regardless of the time it is, a stream on a Sunday. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and help us continue to grow the community. And we'll see you all next week. Panathinaikos, the third time this month. Maybe we actually get a win or something besides a draw in regular time. Who knows? But we'll see you guys next time. This is Skate International by the fans for the fans. Merch is coming next week, this coming week. Hopefully, we are good to go Monday or Tuesday, but next week for sure, the merch is coming. So check it out. You'll see everything on social media. So thank you guys, and we will see you all next time.